Today, we're going to take a road trip. I think we're going to go into Death Valley. We're only like 60 miles from Death Valley, so we were out that way at the beginning of the summer during Memorial Day weekend. Yeah, during the Memorial Day weekend we were out there, and Debbie wanted to go to Scottys Castle. We were before Deb and I were married and we had children, and I think it was 2007, the first Thanksgiving that we were dating. It was like a month after we started dating. We took a trip to Death Valley, and we spent, I don't remember if we spent the night out there or not. We had the van. I don't think we did. I think we just spent the day dinking around out there. So, and we went to Scottys Castle, but we didn't take the tour. So, when we went back, we were off-roading. We took the Suburban during Memorial Day weekend, and as we were coming, we came in. I can't remember the name of that town. Leadstone, I think. It's a deserted mining town. It was only mining town for a year back in like 1911 or something like that. But it's way off the beaten path, and that takes you just outside. I'll tell you how to get there if you're so inclined to come to the desert Southwest. If you go to Beatty, Nevada, and you drive due south out of Beatty, you'll find an abandoned mining town called Rhyolite, which is now part of the National Park Service. Anyway, Rhyolite was a gold mining town established in the early 1900s, and it's now a tourist trap, kind of. It's not really touristy, but it is it's a historical monument or something, I think. Anyway, just outside of Rhyolite, if you keep going south past Rhyolite, there's a dirt road that goes to the right, and that'll take you into Death Valley, into Leadstone. I think it's Leadstone. It's lead something. But there's a lot of abandoned mines back in there. You end up in Death Valley, and once you get on the main road in Death Valley, and if you've never been to Death Valley, put it on your bucket list. You know, if you've never seen the area, you'd think that Death Valley is just this sandy desert. You know, it's devoid of life. I'll tell you what, you'll be pleasantly surprised if you actually spend a couple of days in Death Valley. I wouldn't go in June, July, or August. It's very hot there, very hot, and heat kills. But this is the perfect time of year to go: spring, in fall, in winter. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to go into Death Valley. We're going to see Scottys Castle. Oh, and the reason why we're going back now is because when we were there for the Memorial Day weekend, we headed out of Death Valley and to go back to the Beatty where we started. And the easiest way to do that is to go where Scottys Castle is, and we decided we're going to stop at least to hit the souvenir places. I need to get some T-shirts of Death Valley, you know. Well, we got there, and the Park Service had the place closed and had guard. I mean, this is just before the big. I think it was like the Saturday before the Memorial Day weekend. Park Service was there, had the whole place closed, and so what's going on? So I had a fire. Really? Where? And he's like, dude, really? Right here. And if you don't know what Scottys Castle is, it's this old rich dude. I forget the story of Scotty, but he was an eccentric, and he was well known. He had something to do with the mining industry, I'm sure. But he built this castle, this mansion out in the, you got to think this was in the early 1900s. There weren't any roads, paved roads out there. This is all wilderness, man. He builds this elaborate mansion, this Spanish style mansion out in in the desert. And the place has got its own electric generating plant. This place was way ahead of its time. And anyway, this beautiful Spanish-style mansion, and you can take a tour through the actual house. We didn't go through the actual house. We walked the grounds and some of the outbuildings and the power shed and all that stuff. But apparently, what it appears to me is that they tried to do a controlled burn of the east end of the property, and it got out of hand, and the fire spread all the way up the watershed. The only place where there's any vegetation. There's a water reservoir about a mile from the house, and that supplies the house with water. And there's like a watershed that goes from the water reservoir. It's just a little creek, but that's the only place where there's any vegetation around there. And it just worked its way a couple of miles up the road following that watershed. So the place was closed. We couldn't go see it. So we're going to go back today. We're going to take the kids and see if the place is open. Now it's probably going to be closed because of Thanksgiving weekend. Oh well. But that's what we're going to go. And I'm going to bring my camera and see how that works. I'm going to bring all 3 cameras.
Okay, we're on the Death Valley side of Titus Canyon. And that's the canyon through which you come out of Beatty and come into Death Valley. And this is actually the good side. The road is comparable to that most of the way. You could probably take a car. They advise at least a high clearance vehicle. I know that we took this road in 2007 in a full-size van with 22-inch tires. So it can be done. But once you get to, you probably can't, I know you can't see it because I can't even see it from the naked eye here. But right about, oh geez, right up in there at the end of my finger is where it comes out of the canyon. And you can drive from this, we're at the main road here. You can drive up this road 3 miles till there's like restrooms up there, up there, and then you can't go any further. It's one-way traffic coming from Beatty this way. But maybe next year you get the Suburban back out and we'll make that trip again, and I'll videotape a little bit more of it. Down the hill a bit, looking up at the carriage house. And these palm trees that got involved in that fire. We were talking about that fire earlier. They kept us from visiting this place back during the Memorial Day weekend. Some of those trees were pretty dang big. You can see the fire just worked its way right up the watershed. How far up do you think it was? A couple miles, wasn't it?
What?
That fire made it all the way up, a couple miles up to the reservoir. So.
I'm gonna laugh if you fall in that water, boy.
Hey. This is the view from behind Scotty's house, looking southwest. Guy had pretty good view of the mountain range behind him, looking down into Death Valley. That way's Death Valley. That was pretty cool, huh? Yeah, that right there is the solar water heater. This was built back in the 20s, and you see there's the solar collectors right here, and it runs through, water runs through copper. This is all under glass, and then it's stored in that big vertical tank there. It was rendered inoperable during a winter freeze. It was abandoned, but it worked really, really good. Come here, T. Quit throwing rocks. Oh my God. Tanner, knock it off! Get your butt over here. Time for me to flex on number one. Bye. I look back at the solar water heater collector, solar water collector thing, whatever. And that's at the northern boundary. It's at the northern end of the property here. And there's Scottys Castle.
Make my knees weak.
This is pretty cool. It's like $25 per person to do the full tour, so we bought a DVD for $20 instead. But we're standing where I'm taking the video from is on top of the powerhouse, and right behind the powerhouse is the clock tower. One of the interesting features of the powerhouse is these glass tiles that are in the roof of the powerhouse. The roof here is dirt, but these panels, they're what, maybe 6 by 8, 6 foot by 8 foot, if I were to venture a guess. And there's these glass tiles, and this is in the roof of the powerhouse. Directly underneath here are generators. I believe there's a diesel generator and a hydroelectric power plant right underneath here. And the water is looking east again, and right that building to the far end of the property is the carriage house, and that valley up there is where the water over beyond that bend in the valley is where the reservoir is, and that there's 2 reservoirs up, if my memory serves me correctly, and that water is controlled and diverted down a small creek or channel, and then that water is diverted all the way to this pump house, and that's what generates electricity. And there's, like I say, man, the technology used here is way ahead of its time. Battery storage and whatnot. It's pretty cool. So, like I said, if you ever thought about coming to Death Valley, there's a lot to see here. This is just one of the things you can see. Scottys Castle should be on the list of things to see in the Death Valley area. So, right now I'm trying to keep my kids alive, so we'll keep moving. See you in a bit. Yeah. So there's the clock tower, right? We're coming down into the courtyard. Check out these doors, man. These doors are cool. Is it tile?
Hey, Tanner, wait.
It's the view out the. That's not going to show up very well because I'm looking almost directly in the sun, but. This is cool. Kind of craftsmanship. And there's the pool. Dirt bottom pool. This thing had to be so cool back in the day.
Be careful going down the steps, honey.
Woo-wee!
One at a time.
Whee! Ready? Here we go again. Whee! Whee! Ay, ay, ay. Awesome, huh? Making good time. I got you. I won't let you fall. Okay. Check out those doors. That's so cool. Oops, daisy. Uh-huh. Here. Yeah, you can pause and read that.
Give this thing a spin. It's the most amazingly balanced machine I've
Yeah.
seen.
100 years old too.
But it runs beautifully.
So those are the ceiling tiles, the glass ceiling tiles I was talking about. And here's the powerhouse. Got a looks like a couple of diesel generators and a gas powered generator. I used to have one just like that, or similar to that. And then, of course, this one. There. This one is the hydroelectric. Similar to that. Didn't take much.
Oh, his leg's gonna be hurting him.
And then there's the house. Okay, bye. This is the courtyard at Scottys. So I think that's the main house, and then this is like guest houses and whatnot. I'd love to have a courtyard like this, Debbie.